ولا لشيء من عملي القبيح بالحسن مبدلا غيرك. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك وبحمدك ظلمت نفسي وتجرأت بجهلي وسكنت إلى قديم ذكرك لي ومنك علي. اللهم مولاي كم من قبيح سترت وكم من فادح من البلاء أقلت وكم من عسار وقيت وكم من مكروه دفعت وكم من ثناء جميل لست أهلا له نشرت. اللهم عظم بلائي وأفرط بي سوء حالي وقصرت بي أعمالي وقعدت بي أخلالي وحبسني عن نفعي بعد آمالي وخدعتني الدنيا بغرورها ونفسي بجنايتها ومثالي. يا سيدي فأسألك بعزتك ألا يحجب عنك. وكن اللهم بعزتك لي في كل الأحوال رعوفا وعلي في جميع الأمور عطوفا. إلهي وربي من لي غيرك أسأله كشف ضري والنظر في أمري. إلهي ومولاي أجريت علي حكما اتبعت فيه هوى نفسي ولم أحترس فيه من تزيين عدوي فغرني بما أحوى وأسعده على ذلك القضاء فتجاوزت بما جرى علي من ذلك بعد حدودك وخالفت بعد أوامرك. فلك الحمد علي في جميع ذلك ولا حجة لي فيما جرى علي فيه قضاؤك وألزمني حكمك وبلاؤك. وقد أتيتك يا إلهي بعد تقصيري وإسرافي على نفسي معتذرا نادما منكسرا مستقيلا مستغفرا منيبا مقرا مذعنا مقترفا لا أجد مفرا مما كان مني ولا مفزعا أتوجه إليه في أمري غير قبولك عذري وإدخالك إياي في سعة رحمتك. اللهم فاقبل عذري وارحم شدة ضري وفكني من شد وساقي. يا رب ارحم ضعف بدني ورقة جلدي ودقة عظمي. يا من بدأ خلقي وذكري وتربيتي وبري وتغذيتي هبني لابتداء كرمك وصالف برك بي. يا إلهي والسيدي وربي أتراك معذبي بنارك بعد توحيدك وبعد ما انتبى عليه قلبي من معرفتك ولهج به لساني من ذكرك واعتقده ضميري من حبك وبعد صدق اعترافي ودعائي خاضئا لربوبيتك. هيهات أنت أكرم من أن تضيع من ربيت أو تبعد من أدنيت أو تشرد من آويت أو تسلم إلى البلاء من كفيته ورحمت. وليت شعري يا سيدي وإلهي ومولاي أتسلط النار على وجوه خرت لعظمتك ساجدا وعلى ألسن نطقت بتوحيدك صادقا وبشكرك مادحا وعلى قلوب اعترفت بإلهيتك محققة وعلى ضمائر هوت من العلم بك حتى صارت خاشعة وعلى جوارها سعت إلى أوطان تعبدك تائعة، وأشارت باستغفارك مذعنا. ما هكذا الظن بك، ولا أخبرنا بفضلك عنك يا كريم يا رب. وأنت تعلم ضعفي عن قليل من بلاء الدنيا وعقوباتها، وما يجري فيها من المكاره على أهلها، على أن ذلك بلاء ومكروه، قليل مكثو، يسير بقاء، قصير مدة. فكيف احتمالي لبلاء الآخرة وجليل وقوع المكاره فيها، وهو بلاء تطول مدة ويدوم مقام، ولا يخفف عن أهلي، لأنه لا يكون إلا عن غضبك وانتقامك وسخطك، وهذا ما لا تقوم له السماوات والأرض. يا سيدي، فكيف لي وأنا عبدك الضعيف الذليل الحقير المسكين المستكين؟ يا إلهي وربي وسيدي ومولاي، لأي الأمور إليك أشكو، ولما منها أدج وأبكي؟ لعليم العذاب وشدتي، أم لطول البلاء ومدتي؟ فلئن سيرتني للعقوبات مع أعدائك، وجمعت بيني وبين أهل بلائك، وفرقت بيني وبين أحبائك وأوليائك، فهبني يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي وربي. صبرت على عذابك، فكيف أصبر على فراقك؟ وهبني صبرت على حر نارك، فكيف أصبر عن النظر إلى كرامتك؟ أم كيف أسكن في النار ورجائي عفوك؟ فبعزتك يا سيدي ومولاي أقسم صادقا، لئن تركتني ناطقا لأدجن إليك بين أهلها ضجيج العاملين، ولأصرخن إليك صراخ المستصرخين، ولأبكين عليك بكاء الفاقدين، ولأنادينك أين كنت يا ولي المؤمنين، يا غاية آمال العارفين، يا غياث المستغيثين، يا حبيب قلوب الصادقين، ويا إله العالمين. أفتراك سبحانك يا إلهي وبحمدك تسمع فيها صوت عبد مسلم سجن فيها بمخالفتي، وذاق طعم عذابها بمعصيتي، وحبس بين أطباقها بجرمه وجريرتي، وهو يضج إليك ضجيج مؤمل لرحمتك، ويناديك بلسان أهل توحيدك، ويتوسل إليك بربوبيتك. يا مولاي، فكيف يبقى في العذاب وهو يرجو ما سلف من حلمك؟ أم كيف تؤلمه النار وهو يأمل فضلك ورحمتك؟ أم كيف يهرقه لهيبها وأنت تسمع صوته وترى مكانا؟ أم كيف يشتمل عليه زفيرها وأنت تعلم ضعفا؟ أم كيف يتقلقل بين أطباقها وأنت تعلم صدقا؟ أم كيف تزجره زبانيتها وهو يناديك يا رب؟ أم كيف يرجو فضلك في إتقه منها فتتركه فيها؟ هيهات، ما ذلك الظن بك، ولا المعروف من فضلك، ولا مشبه لما عاملت به الموحدين من برك وإحسانك. فباليقين أقتو لولا ما حكمت به من تعذيب جاهديك، وقضيت به من إخلاد معانديك، لجعلت النار كلها بردا وسلاما، وما كان لأحد فيها مقرا ولا مقاما، لكنك تقدست أسماؤك أقسمت أن تملأها من الكافرين من الجنة والناس أجمعين، وأن تخلد فيها المعاندين، وأنت جل ثناؤك قلت مبتدئا، وتطولت بالإنعام متكرما، أفمن كان مؤمنا كمن كان فاسقا لا يستوون. إلهي وسيدي، وأسألك بالقدرة التي قدرتها وبالقضية التي حتمتها وحكمتها وغلبت من عليه أجريتها أن تهب لي في هذه الليل وفي هذه الساعة كل جرم أجرمت وكل ذنب أذنبت وكل قبيح أسررت وكل جهل عملت كتمته أو أعلنت أخفيته أو أظهرت وكل سيئة أمرت بإثباتها الكرام الكاتبين الذين وكلتهم بحفظ ما يكون مني وجعلتهم شهودا على مع جواره وكنت أنت الرقيب علي من ورائهم والشاهد لما خفي عنهم برحمتك أخفيت وبفضلك سترت وأن توفر حظي من كل خير أنزلت أو إحسان فضلت أو بر نشرت أو رزق بسطت أو ذنب تغفره أو خطأ تستر. یا ربی یا ربی یا رب، یا الہی و سیدی و مولایا و مالک رقی، یا من بیدہ ناصیتی، یا علیما بدری و مسکنتی، یا خبیرا بفقری و فاقتی. یا ربی یا ربی یا رب، اسألک بحقک و قدسک وعظم صفاتك وأسمائك أن تجعل أوقاتي من الليل والنهار بذكرك معمورا وبخدمتك موصولا وأعمالي عندك مقبولا حتى تكون أعمالي وأورادي كلها وردا واحدا وحالي في خدمتك سرمدا. يا سيدي، يا من عليه معولي، يا من إليه شكوت أحوالي، يا ربي يا ربي يا رب، قو على خدمتك جواره واشدد على العزيمة جوانه وهب لي الجد في خشيتك والدوام في الاتصال بخدمتك حتى أسرح إليك في ميادين السابقين وأسرع إليك في وأجتمع في جوارك مع المؤمنين. اللهم ومن أرادني بسوء فأرد ومن كادني فكد واجعلني من أحسن عبيدك نسيبا عندك وأقربهم منزلة منك وأخسهم زلفة لديك، فإنه لا ينال ذلك إلا بفضلك وجد لي بجودك واعطف علي بمجدك واحفظني برحمتك واجعل لساني بذكرك لهجا وقلبي بحبك متيما ومن علي بحسن إجابتك وأقلني عسرتي واغفر ذلتي، فإنك قضيت على عبادك بعبادتك وأمرتهم بدعائك ودمنت لهم الإجابة. فإليك يا ربي نسبت وجهي وإليك يا ربي مددت يدي، فبعزتك استجب لدعائي وبلغني منايا ولا تقطع من فضلك رجائي واكفني شر الجن والإنس من أعدائي. يا سريع الرضا، اغفر لمن لا يملك إلا الدعاء فإنك فعال لما تشاء. يا من اسمه دواء وذكره شفاء وطاعته غنى، ارحم من راس ماله الرجاء وسلاه البكاء. يا سابغ النعم، یا دافع النقم، یا نور المستوحشین فی الظلم، یا عالم لا يعلم، صلی علی محمد وآل محمد وافعل بی ما انت اہلو، وصلی اللہ علی رسولی والائمة المیامین من آلہ وسلم تسلیما کثیرا. سورہ فاتحہ.
بر محمد وآل محمد صلوات. بہت پرانی نعت ہے جو میں نے 96 میں پڑھی تھی، اور اس کے بعد میں حج پہ چلا گیا تھا، موقع مل گیا تھا ایسا، تو وہی دوبارہ آج. حضور ایسا کوئی انتظام ہو جائے، حضور ایسا کوئی انتظام ہو جائے، سلام کے لیے حاضر غلام ہو جائے، حضور ایسا میں صرف دیکھ لوں ایک بار صبح ہے طیبہ کو، میں صرف دیکھ لوں ایک بار صبح ہے طیبہ کو، بلا سے پھر میری دنیا میں شام ہو جائے، سلام کے لیے تجلیات سے بھر لوں میں اپنا کاسہ جاں، تجلیات سے بھر لوں میں اپنا کاسہ جاں، کبھی جو ان کی گلی میں قیام ہو جائے، حضور ایسا، حضور آپ جو سن لیں تو بات بن جائے، حضور آپ جو سن لیں تو بات بن جائے، حضور آپ جو کہہ دیں تو کام ہو جائے، سلام کے لیے حاضر غلام ہو جائے، اور مزہ تو جب ہے فرشتے یہ قبر میں کہہ دیں، مزہ تو جب ہے فرشتے یہ قبر میں کہہ دیں، سبھی مدحت خیر الانام ہو جائے، سبھی मिदहते खैरुल अनाम हो जाए, हुजूर ऐसा कोई इंतज़ाम हो जाए, सलाम के लिए हाजिर गुलाम हो जाए, हुजूर ऐसा। बर मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद सलवात।
بار محمد وآل محمد صلوات. Can you please read Surah Al-Fatiha for all Marumin, Surah Al-Barakat Al-Fatiha. Can you please invite Dr. Kamal Abbas to the podium with a loud Nari Salat. Bar Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad Salawat.
सूरत al-Fatiha. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على خاتم النبيين وآله الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وآله. Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum. MashaAllah, fantastic naat, and especially in the end, Midat Sabi Midhate Khairul Anam ho jaye. Then when in the grave, the angels, when they will descend and they will ask me, before I ask you any question, can you please recite the naat of Midhate Khairul Anam? There was a beautiful couplet, I thought. This is the essence of these months. MashaAllah, we have been through the mourning period. And now, not suddenly, but gradually we actually ease into the month of the blessing. And I think this is the opportunity we should grab with both hands. And I hope, inshallah, I have heard that ladies will be getting together. And I think in the month of Rabiul Awwal and definitely in Rabiul Awwal, but moving on forward as well, we need to remember Holy Prophet as much as we can, because you can never do justice. But this is the least we can do to remember him. Even if you look at the name of the month. So today I want to talk a little bit about over the next few weeks, I want to touch on the life history of Holy Prophet. And with an angle that some of the objections and some of the things which are placed on us, and sometimes we think they are that tiny objection, we don't need to worry about that. It came to my mind because I had the blessing of coming to Madrasa very recently. And I was speaking to the young men and women of Madrasa. And one of the questions, when I asked some questions, and they raised a question for our generation, our heart will tremble and say, oh my God, we can't be saying that. And for them, because they have heard it few times, the objections and some statements, for them it was just normal to make that objection. And I tried my best to answer that question. But I thought there is something which we need to remind ourselves and inshallah pass on to our next generation. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The blessing of this month, if you look at even the name of it, we call it Rabiul Awwal. And I'm sure people who are accomplished in Arabic, we will remember what does Rabi mean. Rabi means the month of spring. And if you know, our forefathers, in the beginning of the Islam, when the names of months were changed, so month of like Muharram was called Mu'tamar, and so on and so forth. Ramadan was called Natiq. So lunar calendar existed. Month of Rabiul Awwal was called Khuwan.
If you look at any book, you will find that. Even now, in linguistic book, the basic book, you know, when they teach you Arabic, and when they give you, there are names are mentioned there. In early part of the history, they changed it to Rabi'ul Awwal, the first month of spring. Now, you will argue the Islamic calendar moves, doesn't it? And sometimes Rabi'ul Awwal, like now, it's in autumn. But what they decided, and this is a lesson for us to learn actually, why they decided, because Holy Prophet was born in the month of April, which was spring, this month of spring in Arab, number one. They said this is the first time the spring has come to us. So that's why we'll call it Rabiul Awwal. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So, and then, even then, we will follow him, remembering him by Rabiul Sani. They did not want to name it second anything else. It's still the spring. So by the time they were named, we are talking about 70 years after Holy Prophet. So the months have changed and changed, but they remember the month as the birth of Holy Prophet. And they called it spring because they wanted to remember him like that. And this is why we should take this opportunity with both hands. So Muhammad is born in this month. And again, so I will very briefly go through it. So inshallah, thank you for the opportunity. I will try to cover just the early part of Holy Prophet's life. But I hope you can walk with me on this. Very often, if I ask all of us, so when Holy Prophet was born, where was his father? He passed away. Abdullah. And then we very quickly go through his early part by saying when he was 6 years old, then his mother passed away. And then when he was 8 years old, or some people say 9 years old, his grandfather, the patron-in-chief, passes away. We go like that very quickly. Now, I want you to just reflect on it. I mean, the months all of us, or at least most of us, had with our fathers and our mothers. Prophet was devoid of that completely. When we think of it, what influence does our parent have on us? How much love we draw from there? Just when your child is born and you stand next to and ask them to jump on you, and the love is reciprocated. Prophet never had that with his father. And we don't think of it like that how much impact it had on him, both psychological and emotional, but also in terms of his development. We know on a spiritual level, we can easily turn around and say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was looking after. Of course, Allah looks after everyone. But Holy Prophet took the personal responsibility. One of the things Sheikh Mufid writes, when we talk about the concept of Isma, we say Masoom. So Masoom is obviously infallible and they don't do any sin. But look at Sheikh Mufid's work. He also defines, and again, there's only one paragraph, but it touched me. He said, quite often we talk Masoom to who? To children. And the reason is because they have not done any sins. But then he talks about what Isma does to you. As in your nature, Isma gives you strength of emotions. A little child, remember that hadith of Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, salawat. When we went for Hajj, we heard this from the Maulana who looked after us, because I had my boys who were like 6 and 3 at that time, and he was very happy. And he's told us, obviously we had heard, but it was very interesting because we had some issue in that group. But he said, look, we need to have children in the group because this is the blessing we have. What is that? He said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Holy Prophet had told this hadith, he likes children for 3 reasons. And what are these 3 reasons? Number 1, when they fight, they reconcile within minutes. They don't keep any grudges in their hearts. And these are the 3 things. Look at Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Holy Prophet. They are dealing with our psychology because we don't like it, do we? When children are fighting, we go, oh my God, what's happening again? Second thing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala writes about children, they sit, and again, as parent, you go, oh my God, you have ruined your clothes. We just ironed it. They sit on earth because they know where they have come from and where they return. And the third thing is going back to the topic of Isma, when they need something, again, some of us get completely fed up of it when children do that. But Holy Prophet is trying to play with our psychology. When they want something, they ask by crying and wailing. Allah want you to ask him like that. And it's going back to this Isma because they have intensity of emotions. That's why we call children Masoom. Translate that to Holy Prophet, he's a young child as well as Masoom. So the love, inshallah, we have for our mother, Prophet had 10 times or 100 times more than that. He would have 100 times more love for his father and his grandfather, the patron who looked after him. And within few years, what is 8 years age? If you look at 8 years old, you don't even think that they are like doing anything or they can think. But his whole personality had to develop after that. And that was the credit to him, how actually he thought. So Prophet is born. So firstly, let's go back to Prophet's birth time. 17th of Rabiul Awwal, 570 AD or first Amul Fil. He's born in the city of Makkah. And I'll come to Makkah in a second because I feel strong about that we really need to talk about Makkah. He's the son of Abdullah. He's the son of Amina. Again, if you look at both of them, Abdullah, again, we go through it quickly. He is one of the 10 or 12 sons of Abdul Muttalib. And he's the youngest. He is the baby of Abdul Muttalib, born. And he is only the second of his son to die. What will happen to Abdul Muttalib? You might expect, I'm not saying it's easy, but for your first son to go or second son to go, it's your youngest son, who, by the way, have just gone to do some trade in Medina. And then the caravan comes back, tells Abdul Muttalib sitting there, your son just died. And we have buried him there. Now, what would have happened to Abdul Muttalib? Looking at his daughter-in-law, who is pregnant now, how will he be telling her? Just think of it. He had to break that news to Amina, who's a young woman, who's supposedly either 20 or 24 at that time, depending on different, but definitely not very old, very young woman. And Amna came to this family from another tribe. She was not a Makkan. She hasn't got anybody to support her. And Abdul Muttalib takes it on her himself to look after this young woman. He gives her the opportunity, if you want to go back to your family, you can, or you can stay here. Now, we do not know spiritually she already had the knowledge or not, but she chose to stay there as a young woman with no other support, who was just married in this family last year and is pregnant. She chose to stay in the city of Makkah. But she was so debilitated by the news that by the time the Prophet was born, she did not have any milk, or she did not have enough milk, as we know that. So initially, there was a lady called Sobia, but unfortunately, Sobia was maid servant of his uncle Abu Lahab. And Abu Lahab hated Abdullah and Abdul Talib from the very beginning, even before the Islam. It's very well documented. He never liked them. So he stopped Sobia going there. How cruel person he was. The little baby was suffering. And that is when Halima Sadiya came in his life, who looked after Holy Prophet. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Wa ali Muhammad. So this is where I wanted us to reflect on Amina and Abdullah. And this is the discussion I had with some of the young men and women. It shocked me that they said, because they read on internet that Amna and Abdullah and their forefathers were polytheists and pagans. My heart just sank when I heard this. And it reminded me of my grandfather when he used to say, because we cannot elevate ourselves, we want to pull them down. And quite often, our brothers will say that you elevate Ali more than Prophet. And Allama Talib Johari used to say beautifully, he said, no, your Nabi is definitely lower than our Ali, but you have not seen our Nabi. The way we look at Nabi, he is 10 times bigger than Ali. You'd have never even known that. Prophet is so big, and because we can't do that, and they want to pull it down. Two basically narrations. A book from Al-Sayuti. Sayuti is basically a Sunni scholar, Jalaluddin Sayuti, who writes, quote unquote, the Prophet decided to do Umrah while coming back from the Battle of Tabuk. Therefore, he set off for Makkah. When he arrived on his mother's grave, he asked God for the permission to pray for her forgiveness. But his request was rejected, and the verse was sent to him. Abraham's pleading forgiveness for his father was only to fulfill a promise he had made him. When it became manifest to him that he was an enemy of God, he repudiated him. Indeed, Abraham was plaintive and forbearing, and that's why he rejected his father. And they actually associate that with Amna, another book of quote, once the Prophet visited Muslims' tombs and we followed him. He sat before a tomb and shed tears there and prayed. We cried along with him. Firstly, we are told that crying is haram. And now this hadith is actually telling from Sahih Bukhari that that's what Prophet did. We cried along with him and prayed with his supplication. He asked the reason for our cry. We replied, we were inspired by your cry. And he said, this tomb belongs to my mother Amina. God let me visit it, yet I am not allowed to pray for her forgiveness. This is what is being said. And this is what our young men and women are reading on internet. Let's go to our own resources. Before I did, Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And we have got beautiful scholars who we have. Allama Amini, who wrote the book Al-Ghadir. You must have heard of Al-Ghadir. One book which actually has got not just one or two, 1800 riwayat why Holy Prophet Imam Ali should be the wasi. He's done a big job. Allama Amini writes, he challenges this scholar. I will quote and very quickly quote this. Didn't the Prophet know that he and his followers could not pray for idolaters' forgiveness and mediate for them, even after sending many verses on the day of Tabuk? How did he ask for permission for pray for his mother's forgiveness and mediate for her? Did he? Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Did he think his mother? So basically, and then he quotes the ayat of Quran where we are supposed to pray for humans. Doesn't say about Muslim or idolaters. So he asked this question, did he think that his mother is not counted as a human? He's very angry about it, obviously. You can see the language. Has this hadith been made to contaminate Prophet's reputation or view his mother as an idolater? Some have interpreted requesting for forgiveness as praying for the corpse. That's what you have done. So brothers and sisters, we need to be clear about Holy Prophet's lineage. They were such grand people who looked after us. Look at, just very quickly, I will touch, I've not written, but I just remember this. Prophet's father is Abdullah. Abdullah's father is Abdul Muttalib. And Abdul Muttalib's father is Hashim. Yes, remember that. So where does Muttalib come from? Because his name was not Abdul Muttalib, his name was Sheba. What happened that Hashim had gone on a trade towards Palestine and Syria, and he died there. And his wife basically came to Medina and stayed there with, at that time, Sheba. His younger brother, Muttalib, so they were so nobles, that's what I'm trying to say, so compassionate people. Muttalib lived in Makkah, who is now trying to support his father, that my brother has died. Muttalib then finds out that Sheba has come and is staying in Medina. So he goes and brings him back. And when he brought him, people saw that and said, but there's a young boy coming. And at that time, the young men, when they did not know, they were supposed to be the slave of whoever was bringing him. And Abdul Muttalib loved this title because his uncle looked after him so much. He said, I'm happy to be Abdul Muttalib. And that's what he was always called. This was the compassion, brothers and sisters, they had. Look at Abu Talib's whole life. Abu Talib, so let's stay with Abdullah. Abdullah is son of Abdul Muttalib. And I'm trying to say that so that we understand the nobility of this family. He had, obviously, Abdul Muttalib had various wives. Abdullah, real brother, are two brothers. One is called Zubair and one is called Abu Talib. And all of them had significant impact on the living of Makkah. And this is what is important for us to understand. They were not Tom, Dick, and Harrys of that time. They really made a huge impact, which we should always remember. Salawat Allah Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. Holy Prophet is born. Holy Prophet's mother looks after him because Abdullah is gone. He stays in the house of Abdul Muttalib. Abdul Muttalib then, Amna then decides to visit Medina, to visit the grave of Abdullah. On her way back, quite often it's written in the history, she was heartbroken. She was a young woman, but she could not deal with the loneliness. And she got ill and died on the way back, coming back from Medina. And she's buried on the way from Medina to Makkah. Abdul Muttalib now takes and sends Abu Talib to bring Muhammad back to Makkah. And now he starts looking after him. 2 years down the line, he dies. And before he dies, he calls Abu Talib in front of all his tribes. He calls for, and sometimes his city exaggerates, but there's 72 people sitting in the room. So it's hard to understand what sort of room it was. But 72 in front of, because he did not want anything to happen. That shows how Abdul Muttalib knew Muhammad is going to be important. 72 people he calls, well, maybe exaggeration, but means a lot of people. And he tells them Abu Talib is going to be the guardian. Consider that to be a kafir. Why will he ever give somebody like Muhammad to Abu Talib to look after? Now here I want to stop and talk about Makkah. And brothers and sisters, these things are said and I really feel strong about it, so I want to make a point. Was Makkah relevant in the world before Islam? Of course it was. And I will give you lots of quotation. You want books? I'll give you books. Greek historian Diodorus Siculus lived in first century, way before Holy Prophet. And when he wrote about, he traveled to Arab and he writes about Makkah. A temple has been set up in which there is very holy for all the Arabs. All the Arabs come and look after this place. We know there were a lot of smaller temples around, but we know even at that time, he recognized Makkah had a holy place. And he wrote about it. Go look at Encyclopedia Britannica. Another one, Ptolemy, and I do not know if you know Ptolemy, he's one of my favorite historical scholars. He has written a lot, again, 2nd century scholar from Roman Empire. He traveled and he basically said in his documentation that there was a place called Makaroba, about Makkah. So it has been established for some time. Another books which I have got, which recognizes that at that time, there were 3 cities which were the hubs of trade at that time. But I will ask you one thing. Leave all the history out. Just think yourself. What is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's sunnah? Every major prophet came to a place which was of importance. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knew that that is where they will make difference. Look at Prophet Musa. Look at Prophet Ibrahim. Look at Prophet Noah. Look at Prophet Sulaiman. Look at Prophet Isa. They were always born in the places where there was attraction, where the history was being made. Why would he digress from that in the last day? Forget that. Have you not heard? Hajj was already going on. We actually talk about Jahiliyyah. They were so idiots that they used to come naked to do. But they were at least coming. That means it was a center. We talk about Khadija, that she was such a rich woman and she had such huge contingent. Where was she living? In Makkah. We talk about a lot of things which happened in Makkah in terms of trade. Forget all of this. We talk about that this has been a classic objection made. Not now, in the days of Prophet. They asked, every prophet had a miracle. What is your miracle? So he counts 2 miracles, remember? And what is the hadith? From 6th Imam, Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam. That every prophet received miracles according to the need of time. In Musa's days, it was the magic. In Isa's day, it was the medicine. In Prophet's days, it was eloquence and the gallantry. Eloquence and literature, he got Quran. And bravery and gallantry, he got Ali. Where was he living? He was living in Makkah. If that was not eloquent and literature friendly city, was he getting it for Syria? No, he was doing it for that period of that time. My last question, I feel strong about this. I'm going on argument. I'm going on logical argument rather than history here. Holy Prophet passes away. Where did he pass away? Medina. What did Medinans do? Saqifa. In Saqifa, what do they say? An Ansar should be the caliph. Remember, Sa'd ibn Ubadah. Only 2 Muhajir walk into there. And all the tent falls silent. Makkans were always taken as the nobles. And they said, it is our heritage. We will be the caliphs. Now, this is another story, right, wrong, blah, blah. Point is, Madinans could not stand up against the Makkans, even when the Makkans were immigrants. But they had such a strong position, even 300 miles from Makkah, that they ruled. Why? Because Makkah was known for its nobility. Why am I feeling so strong about it? Because brothers and sisters, let's not go into there. Holy Prophet came to a difficult place. And why was it difficult? Because they were nobles, they were arrogants. And Holy Prophet made a huge impact there. And this is something which even today you cannot think of. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Another thing which I would like to discuss, and this is very good. Holy Prophet now grows up. He starts actually making an impact from the very beginning. And fast forward, he's a young man now, 20 years old. Again, quite often we are told, especially from a Holy Prophet did not have significant life before he actually became a prophet. Holy Prophet had huge, so I wouldn't have time. So let me stick to one event. Have you heard of Hilful Fuzul? Makkah was a center of trade. People come from everywhere. And Quraysh were not very kind people. And they basically started cheating the people. This story starts, it actually happened way before Holy Prophet is born. But in Holy Prophet's days, Holy Prophet reignites it. There is a Yemeni person who came and he wanted to sell something. So they said, yeah, bring in all of this. It is well documented in the history. So they got all of his, whatever he was bringing, all his objects and ornaments. And then he turned on, he said, the price for it. And they said, what price for what? We are not giving you anything. This is ours. And that Yemeni trader basically was heartbroken. He said, this is what I come here for. History writes, he climbed on Kohe Abu Qabis and he shouted from there. He prayed that, is there nobody who will come and help me? And who comes and helps him? Prophet. Now Prophet is only young man, very young man. He's either 16 or 20 years old. He actually goes back. He listens to him. He goes back and brings his 2 real uncles, Abu Talib and Zubair. And both of them, when they arrive there, they actually say, we are going to start Hilful Fuzul. What does Hilful Fuzul mean? The alliance of the questioners. The people who will, so he invites the tribe of Banu Zahra, Banu Asad, Banu Taym, and obviously Banu Hashim. And these were the young men, including Holy Prophet, who used to parade on the streets of Makkah, not allowing any mischievousness going on in the trade. If I came to you and just said that, you know, by the way, Bill Gates has asked for Hussain Tifti Bhai to come and be his manager, you will say, but why Hussain Tifti? Why not Nadeem Bhai? There has to be history, isn't it? I'm not saying Nadeem Bhai is not, but Hussain Tifti Bhai might have done something really noble. He will have a history. That's why Bill Gates will call him only, isn't it? Why will Khadija call Holy Prophet at that tender age to take her caravan? He did not belong to, if I can use the word Nauzubillah, it's just for explaining, not her class. She belonged to like upper higher class, the rich, wealthy class. But Holy Prophet's reputation had developed. He created Hilful Fuzul. And before that, there's another event. He has this impact on Makkah at 20 years age. The Khana Kaaba was damaged and it had to be rebuilt, one of the walls. And that wall, it had Hijr Aswad. And I don't know if you have heard this story or not. Nobody knew who will be doing it. And they pulled their swords out. And there were 40 tribes who wanted to fight with each other. Another thing which is said about Makkah, I've heard this from even our member, the population of Makkah was 550 or 600. Now you tell me, on the night of Hijrat, what do we talk about? 40 tribes people were standing outside. Did a tribe include like 10 men? It has to be a bigger city. And Hijr Aswad, Holy Prophet calls 40 tribes, tribal chiefs. So obviously Makkah was much larger city than we are led to believe. Because, please correct me my maths, but 40 multiplied by only 12 is 480. One tribe can't be 12, 30 people. Even Banu Hashim, if I asked you guys the names, you will tell me like at least 30, 40 names who were living there. And these are the nobles, not the women and children. Holy Prophet called those 40 people. And they said, okay, get the biggest sheet you can get. And put Hijr Aswad in the middle of it. And all of you lived. And he actually went to the distance from Khana Kaaba. So everybody had opportunity to walk, carrying it. He resolved the problem for them. This is what Holy Prophet was about. He suddenly did not got out of area. We plugged him and actually said, yeah, he's going to be the Prophet. This is what Holy Prophet achieved. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. For the first time, he traveled to Syria. On the travel to Syria, he met, or we do not know how he met. Well, actually, there are different stories, so I don't go into that. There was a Christian monk, very well known as Buhaira. Buhaira approached Abu Talib and he said, well, I see, and now there are different narrations. Some says that he always had a cloud over his head. Some said that he did not have a shadow. So there was something interesting about Holy Prophet he found. He said, I really need to talk to your, who is he? Is he your, he uses the word, that's what it says, is your slave? He said, no, he's my son or my nephew. He said, okay, can I talk to him? He said, of course. And he straight away said to him, according to history, oh the young man, answer me in the name of Lat, because he thought they're coming from Makkah. Can you please, for the sake of Lat and Uzza, can you answer me? And as a young boy, Holy Prophet turns on and says, there's nobody else I despise more than them. Straight away he says, well, or something to that effect that I don't follow them, but please tell me, what do you want? He said, which name I should ask you for? And Allah, and he used the word Allah subhanahu. Asked me for the sake of Allah. When he's about 14, 16 years of age. And Buhaira then speaks to him. He says, well, tell me about this thing. So there's a discussion which goes on. And then, according to some narrations, he looked at the Meher-e-Nubuwwat as well, on the back. Again, some say yes, some say no. But anyway, the short of the discussion is, after that discussion, Buhaira turned around and told Abu Talib, your nephew is going to be is the prophet, last prophet we are looking for. Interestingly, I have not found this narration much with detail in Shia books. I've always found it in Sunni books. And then I'm told that Abu Talib was a kafir, who was the first person who actually was told that your son nephew is going to. No history book says he turned on and said, "Are you mad or something?" I mean, what are you talking about? In fact, it says, the history, let's move there. When Abu Talib came back, he said to his sons that you should take turns sleeping in Muhammad's place because his life can be in danger. At the age of 14 or 16 years age. That's what, so when Imam Ali, on the night of Hijrat, jumped to sleep in the bed, that was his habit, which was developed by Abu Talib. He only had one question: will your life be saved? That's what he asked. Because Abu Talib, obviously Ali is a big, obviously we can't understand Ali, but let's try to just go and pay tribute to Abu Talib, who prepared his sons. So if somebody is going to, just think of it this way as a father again. If you have got 4 sons, but you are making them sleep in this place where they can be, let's not hold it back, they can be butchered and murdered. Will you let your son sleep there? Abu Talib did that at a young age. So my point is, brothers and sisters, from the young age, Muhammad is moving. Muhammad is being known in Makkah. Makkah is an important place where things are going to change. Things will change, but he has already making impact. He's already making people trust him. He did not get the reputation of being Amin and Sadiq overnight. He interacted with them. Living in the land of complete pagans, he made a reputation for himself. He then started contemplating. He will obviously never join to go to pray against the idols. So what was his ritual? He firstly used to do in his house. It is said that, but because obviously, according to those days, the way he prayed was very different, obviously, so he did not want to disturb them. He moved away from city. We do not know when he started going to Ghar Hira, but it is said that he actually used to go to you must have been to Makkah, so you have seen the mountains around. He used to go there. And then he picked up Ghar Hira. And I do not know if you know about this or not. In the book I have read, obviously can't measure it, but the guides there also tell you the reason he chose Ghar Hira, because from the gap there, Makkah is in, Khane Kaaba is in that side. But more interestingly, if you followed that, Baitul Muqaddas in that side. So when he was praying here, he was praying in the direction of Khane Kaaba and Baitul Muqaddas at the same time. That's why he picked up Ghar Hira. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Muhammad. I think I will stop here. We now need to, next time, we need to talk about his life with Lady Khadija and his life in Makkah in general, the difficulties he had and difficulties Lady Khadija had with her. But inshallah, what I want to leave us on is this: Muhammad actually created a name for himself while living in Makkah as a young man. And Makkah is about to see its biggest turmoil. I'm going back to Makkah again. If Makkah was not important, why the hell would Abraha come from like 200 miles to demolish it? It was important. People were coming. And remember, what was the excuse for Abraha? People are coming here and they need to come to Najran, where I am. And where is Yemen? It's not next door, is it? And he did not jump on British rail to get there. He walked with like hundreds of elephants. Why would he do that if Makkah was not important? So Makkah is about to see the basis. And this is where we need to respect Makkah in its essence. And this is where we need to acknowledge Prophet's contribution for the rest of our lives. And inshallah ta'ala, I will try to just make humble submission next time about the wedding with Bibi Khadija leading to his time in Makkah. Inshallah, before we go to Medina. صلوات علی محمد و آل محمد.
بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم. السلام علیکم یا رسول اللہ، السلام علیکم یا امیر المومنین، السلام علیکم یا فاطمۃ الزہرا، السلام علیکم یا خدیجۃ الکبریٰ، السلام علیکم یا حسن المجتبیٰ، السلام علیکم یا وارث آدم صفوت اللہ، السلام علیکم یا وارث موسیٰ کلیم اللہ، السلام علیکم یا وارث عیسیٰ روح اللہ، السلام علیکم یا وارث نوح نبی اللہ، السلام علیکم یا وارث محمد المصطفیٰ، السلام علیکم یا وارث علی المرتضیٰ، السلام علیکم یا وارث السلام علیکم یا وارث ابراہیم خلیل اللہ، السلام علیکم یا وارث موسیٰ کلیم اللہ، السلام علیکم یا وارث عیسیٰ روح اللہ، السلام علیکم یا وارث محمد حبیب اللہ، السلام علیکم یا وارث امیر المومنین ولی اللہ، السلام علیکم یا ابن محمد المصطفیٰ، السلام علیکم یا ابن علی المرتضیٰ، السلام علیکم یا ابن فاطمۃ الزہرا، السلام علیکم یا ابن خدیجۃ الکبریٰ، السلام علیکم یا صار اللہ ابن صار والوتر الموتور، اشہد انک قد اقمت الصلاۃ وآتیت الزکاۃ وامرت بالمعروف ونہیت عن المنکر وطاعت اللہ ورسلہ حتی اتاک الیقین، فلان اللہ امتا قتلتک ولان اللہ امتا ظلمتک ولان اللہ امتا سمیت بذالک فرضیت بہ، یا مولا یا ابا عبداللہ، اشہد انک کنت نورا فی الاصلاب الشامخہ والارحام المطہرہ، لم تنجسک الجاہلیۃ بانجاسہا ولم تلبسک من ملہمات ثیابها، واشہد انک من دائم الدین وارکان المومنین، واشہد انک الامام البر التقی الرضی الزکی الہادی المہدی، واشہد انک الائمۃ من ولدک کلمۃ التقوی والعام الہدی والعروۃ الوثقی والحجۃ علی اہل الدنیا، واشہد اللہ وملائکتہ وانبیاءہ ورسلہ انی بکم مومن وبیا بکم موقن بشرائع دینی وخواتیم عملی وقلبی لقلبکم سلم امری لامرکم متبع، صلوات اللہ علیکم ولا ارواحکم ولا اجسادکم ولا اجسامکم ولا شاہدکم ولا غائبکم ولا ظاہرکم ولا باطنکم. السلام علیکم یا ابن رسول اللہ، السلام علیکم یا ابن نبی اللہ، السلام علیکم یا ابن امیر المومنین، السلام علیکم یا ابن الحسین الشہید، السلام علیکم ایہا الشہید وابن الشہید، السلام علیکم ایہا المظلوم وابن المظلوم، لعن اللہ امتا قتلتک ولعن اللہ امتا ظلمتک ولعن اللہ امتا سمیت بذالک فرضیت بہ. السلام علیکم یا اولیاء اللہ واحبا، السلام علیکم یا اصفیاء اللہ ووداء، السلام علیکم یا انصار دین اللہ، السلام علیکم یا انصار رسول اللہ، السلام علیکم یا انصار امیر المومنین، السلام علیکم یا انصار فاطمۃ الزہراء سیدۃ نساء العالمین، السلام علیکم یا انصار ابی محمد الحسن ابن علی ولی الزکی الناس، السلام علیکم یا انصار ابی عبداللہ، بے ابی انتم و امی تبتم وطابت الارض التي انتم فيها دفنتم وفزتم فوزا عظیما فیا لیتنی کنت معکم فافوز معکم. السلام علیکم یا ابن امیر المومنین، السلام علیکم ایہا العبد الصالح والمطیع اللہ ولرسولہ، اشہد انک قد جاہدت ونصحت وصبرت حتی اتاک الیقین، لعن اللہ الظالمین لکم من الاولین والآخرین ولحقہم بدرک الجحیم. السلام علیکہ یا مولا یا غریب الغرباء، السلام علیکہ یا معین الضعفاء، السلام علیکہ یا شمش الشموس، السلام علیکہ یا انیس النفوس ایہا المدفون، السلام علیکہ یا مغیظ الشیعۃ والزوار فی یوم الجزا، السلام علیکہ یا سلطان العرب والعجم، السلام علیکہ یا ابا الحسن علی ابن موسی الرضا ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ، السلام علیکہ یا مولا یا امام یا صاحب العصر والزمان، السلام علیکہ یا خلیفۃ الرحمن، السلام علیکہ یا شریک القرآن، السلام علیکہ یا مظہر الایمان، السلام علیکہ یا امامنا و امام الانس والجان، اجل اللہ تعالی و فرجک وسہل اللہ مخرجک و ظہورک، السلام علیکہ ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ، اللہم صلی علی محمد و آل محمد، بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم،
اللهم كن وليك حجتنا الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وأولياء وحافظا وقاهدا وناصرا وذليلا وعينا متى تسكنه أزكى الدعاء وتوديه فيها تبيتا.